right, Stiffies. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Stiff Truth. Of course, if you don't know already, I hope you do. I'm Scott Casanova, and I've got my amazing friend here, Mr. Bob West, with me again. How you doing, Bob? How was your week so far?
My week's been good. I've officially wrapped up school, so that's
Ooh,
a nice
congratulations!
bonus.
Yeah.
Not forever, but at least for this semester. Everyone's doing well. Got a little bit of suspicious cough that I have, which concerns me, but we'll talk about that later. How was your week?
Bob, yeah, we're definitely going to get into that. My week's been pretty good, bud. I mean, had a nice work week. Actually, we had a half day on Friday, so I had my first White Russian at 11:30 a.m., which was fantastic. That's a great way to close out a Friday at 11:30 in the morning, right? So that was good. Pretty nice and relaxing weekend so far. I had a nice little father-daughter COVID outing, actually, which was pretty fun. My daughter hasn't been, she hasn't been out to like Costco or Walmart or anything like that in like 6-7 weeks. So she was pretty stoked to mask up and hit Costco with me and hit the grocery store. She did a great job. She even carried a little cute like watermelon hand sanitizer that she kept putting on her hands every time we left the stores. I was like, look at her go, look at her go. That was fun. And also, of course, going to Costco, I stocked back up. So feeling really good. And, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
just
Don't
to
get
be
me
clear.
wrong. I've never been into the hoarding shopping or anything like that. I'm never talking about that. But every week I do need to stock back up on booze. Yes, definitely. So all topped off there. And, fun. Actually, last night watched a movie I haven't seen in, God, I want to say probably like 10 years or something like that. But I watched The Mask, the Jim Carrey movie from 1995.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, no, and the big glaring thing to me was not like how funny the movie was, how drop dead gorgeous Cameron Diaz is, when she's that young. I think that's like her first big film. Am I wrong? Or I think so, right?
Yeah, and when that came out, she was the absolute it girl.
Oh, dude, yeah, 1994 or 95, right, when that movie came out. So that's
right
prime
in there,
time.
Yep.
Whew,
Yeah,
so, that was.
I remember when I was, in high school that Cameron Diaz was the girl that everyone talked about because of that movie, all the time. Like when you thought about, who's the hottest girl in film in America or whatever, Cameron Diaz's name was the one that came up. Right? It was like Cameron Diaz and Cindy Crawford. So yeah, I agree with you.
Rightly so, though, too. I mean, geez, her entrance into the bank in The Mask, you're like, wow, impressive, good job, yeah, great stuff there. So that was a nice little, nostalgic kind of refresher of some good comedy too. I love old Jim Carrey stuff, so can't complain about that, man. But I don't know, man. That's what's been going on with me lately, man. What about you? Anything else?
I watched a movie last night.
Oh, you did?
That was fun. Not the kind that you're thinking. The kids are still up. It was Idiocracy.
Oh, the dark nonfiction film. I'll tell you that, right? Huh?
So one of my favorite comedic films, and the interesting thing about Idiocracy is it just seems to age so well.
It really does.
When it first came out, it was so satirical, it was just out of touch completely. But as we progress, it seems like that satire wheels more and more into the realm of reality all the time.
100%. I mean, I think the movie was made in like 2006, I want to say, like that. And really, they were kind of, instead of going 500 years into the future, they kind of just did a little bit of an exaggerated 2015, 16, it sounds like. You know what I mean? Like starting there. But yeah, that's a great film, man.
Yeah, when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh, this is a great satire piece," and it like really exaggerates the dumbing down of humanity in all of this. But as I'm going forward, it seems like they're a little bit ahead of their time in how we make documentaries.
Yeah, True, true. I mean, let's take for instance here. Besides him being a extremely buff guy, Terry Crews, I think, plays President Camacho, right? You strip that down, you make him a little bit orange. We've almost got a match for our boy Donnie.
That's Hector Alessandro Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew Camacho the Third or whatever. He's like crazy.
5-time winner of SmackDown. But again, reality TV star come president.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Yeah, you can't hide that glaring similarity between the two, even though there are some subtle differences. I mean, even God, dude, I like how Costco's still around, right? But it's kind of like totally taken on like its own entity, like an own force. Like they got like a university there. Starbucks are now strip clubs apparently, but at least all the big players are still in business. That's always good.
Well, like everything strip clubs.
Yeah.
It's like,
you want a full body latte?
yeah, it's adult tax returns.
Yeah. And honestly, if you think about like what is that, like ass TV where everything is just like asses on the screen and farting, and there's like that channel where like everybody just gets kicked in the balls over and over again.
Yeah, it's a show. Ow, my balls.
Yeah. Like thinking about that, watching it in 2006, watching a little bit afterwards, like this is so ridiculous. People would never watch something this stupid and mindless. And then you got stuff like the Tiger King that's blowing up on Netflix right now, which is maybe only a couple of slices. I don't know, maybe a little bit more intelligent than what we're looking at in Idiocracy, but a pretty good similarity there, don't you think?
Absolutely, and just the when they do their rehabilitation. Right.
Rehabilitation. That doesn't sound bad.
Yeah. So we're not quite there yet, but we'll get there. Eventually, there's going to be some sort of like, Running Man style show, but hopefully humanity can stop that. But man, I think sometimes the direction of all of us cumulatively is not positive.
Perfect example is the hoarding shopping, right? The panic hoarding shopping, really being when things are going awry and you think things could be like looking end of times, like the logic to stock up on toilet paper outside of like everything else that you could use to save and preserve your life is ridiculous. So that's a good indication of that. But I was saying the healthcare system and the way hospitals work in Idiocracy is actually pretty badass. It's very self-service. And I thought that would be really cool to be able to walk into a hospital and not have to actually see a doctor or a nurse and literally just go up to a machine and have it like take my blood or my urine or stick something up my ass or what. I remember he puts like the wrong one in his mouth that's supposed to go in his ass or vice versa or whatever.
He's like, wait a minute. No, it was this one. Then he has to run to the water fountain and get some Brondo. Wash his mouth out.
Exactly. That's Brondo. That's classic, man. But yeah, no, it would actually be really, really cool if you could literally just walk into a hospital like a vending machine and get yourself diagnosed for COVID real quick, right? You'd be like, hey, go ahead and take the test real quick and have like a little mechanical arm come out and like do the little nose cotton swab or whatever. And like 5 seconds later, hey, congratulations, you've got COVID. It'd be pretty sweet, man. So yeah, there's some positives there, but yeah, it's
a shame to get tested for COVID.
Go ahead.
You have to go get the tracker removed from your Total Recall nose.
Be careful. That's my head too.
Right. I really am not looking forward to that. I'm going to have to get tested at some point, but I really don't want them to like get the sample from my brain.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough, man.
Really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it does. Well, it's kind of like, I guess like passing stones or something like that, which is not very comfortable. So this is not my favorite thing to do, man.
Oh, yeah. I had a buddy pass a stone once in the bathroom, and poor guy was in there just like hurting and crying. And we're all out, in the living room drinking and listening to him and laughing and having a really good time at his expense.
He's literally in there giving birth to something, and you guys are just, Just
sorry, Eduardo, you deserved better.
hopefully he's doing much better now. I would imagine, right? Everything's okay. It's all cleared up. He passed it with ease, or did you have to break it down, or like I don't know.
Well, we went
Good
in there and
stuff, though.
found him after he was done. He was laying on the floor, wiping tears off of his face, recovering from the event.
It's really not funny, but I am laughing at it. So I guess
Early 20-year-olds are assholes to each other. Just so
they really are. It's almost like you kind of jump from being a complete unfiltered asshole when you're 5 years old to like 21. You know what I mean? So, there's like that. There's this gray area in your teens where you actually give a shit for a little while and you're not so mean to everybody, and then that kind of fades away for a little bit. Great time in your life.
Yeah, and then after you hit middle age, at least for men, you just see that like give a shit go away, and they become the bitter old man. That's the path, and I'm really looking forward to that phase of my life, where I know that I'm becoming a bitter old man, and I start like farting in the bank line and shit like that.
Yeah, and then you turn around and you look at the chick behind you, pissed off looking, like you're like,
Right.
"What's your fucking problem, lady?"
Really?
Hey, that's just you still practicing social distancing. So good job, Bob. Way to keep it going as you get older.
I have built-in mechanisms for social distancing. I've been practicing my whole life.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, Idiocracy, man. Great movie, man. I'm glad that you got that in there. Now, did you watch it with the kiddos, the wife, or anything, or was it just a solo project?
It was the family. The toddler could care less about Idiocracy. She was watching her kid shows in the Chromebook, but the teenager loves Idiocracy, so he watched it with us.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a family movie, sorta.
Yeah, I would say so. It's not, I mean, even Maya Rudolph's character, that's a prostitute or whatever, she never actually does anything. She just keeps telling those guys to come back and give her more money. So there's none of that even. So yeah, I'd say it's a good family.
I can wait all day, baby.
Oh yeah,
you wait real good?
Can you wait till tomorrow?
I can wait so good.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm gonna keep waiting because you're on the clock.
So,
funny
Bob,
stuff.
Speaking of getting tested at the at the hospital and stuff, I think I want to talk a little bit more about what you mentioned earlier here. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, Bob, but I thought it would be just something that I needed a little bit more insight to, because we do have a relationship. It's long distance, so I'm in no danger to my health. But what's going on, Bob?
Well, I've had a cough for the last few days, and that's concerning. Haven't had a fever or anything, but I think that's enough for me to want to go. I was a few days ago, I drove by the hospital that's not too far from my house, and if y'all don't know, New Mexico is one of the we're running a pilot program to test anyone. So you don't need symptoms in New Mexico anymore to get tested for COVID. You just have to go through the drive-through testing tents. There's pretty much one at every hospital.
Are they using that? Are they using that because they just started doing that up here in Denver at the Jewish Jewish Memorial Hospital or whatever? I can't remember which one. But they're doing like the antibodies testing up here in that hospital.
I don't know what they're testing.
Interesting.
It's been like finals week for school, so I haven't really been paying attention a whole lot
Sure.
with the program. But I do think that because of my symptoms, I should probably go see, because that means that I would not be able to go out, and I need to like make sure that the rest of the family's tested. I might have to go live in the garage for a couple of weeks. So,
Yikes! I mean, I haven't done that since I was like in college.
so we'll see. It's a little unnerving, though. I can say that. I wanted to go yesterday, but I didn't get around to doing it. Either that, or I was scared and just didn't get over that fear to go do it. But I think I'm going to have to this afternoon, and after we're done recording, and going to have to go jump in the grenade and get tested. And even then, I don't know. I think I'm still waiting for the results.
Yeah.
I don't know really how that goes anymore. But here we are. It sucks during COVID time. Like, I could have a cold or whatever, and like, who knows what it is. It's always the worst case scenario, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, no bullshit, no joking around here. I'd be in the same boat, man. I mean, we've talked about this before. I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but being like a COVID chondriac almost, right? There's been so many instances just because of the fear and just it being everywhere that shit, if I get this, yeah, it's at the least, right? Let's saying everything's going to just pass by and you'll live through it and you'll be fine. It's still, again, what are you going to do for the next 2 weeks? What is your family going to do for the next 2 weeks? Vice versa. If I was in that situation, sure. Okay. Let's quarantine myself like for real away from my family for a couple of weeks. Well, what's going to happen with my job? I mean, all the kinds of stuff beyond that too. So it's very unsettling. It's very nerve wracking. So, but you got to be hashtag part of the solution there, Bob. You know what I mean?
I know. I got to be proactive, and actually, it's being retroactive, but I got to be active and go do it. One good thing that's a little bit of peace of mind here in New Mexico, and I didn't know what this is going to do to our fiscal budget in the state, but people don't have to pay medical bills for COVID treatments in New Mexico. So the governor's actually been raising money, and there's a fund specifically dedicated to folks. So if you do have to go to the hospital and get intubated and get an event, then that $100,000 bill won't come. So that's nice.
That's good.
That's not happening in most places. So that's really comforting to know that there's a little bit of security there.
Yeah. Well, again, Stiffies, all kidding aside, let's send Bob good vibes that he still is not positive for COVID, but only HIV, syphilis, and gonorrhea. Okay? So let's keep it there.
You got to have the right cocktail, and COVID ain't a proper mix.
That is not a good mixer. Right now, you've got the perfect blend of sexually transmitted diseases, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah, I don't need any more Walmart transmitted diseases.
You need the good, like just trained professionals, right, in the game, right? You're not going to be mixing new stuff here. We want tested warriors in battle, right?
Well, I'll go get tested probably today, and then I'll be Instagramming the whole thing.
Yeah, so. And I'm in sales, been in sales for a long time. So when he says he'll probably today, it's probably going to be tomorrow or the next day. But when it happens, it will happen, and we will get it on film. Yes.
Yes, I would do my best to document the whole thing, including the brain swab.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? Speaking of getting some stuff like on video and film that usually just doesn't really happen. Bob, you are an IT man. I am what they call not, I guess to put it nicely at all. I might be
IT deficient.
Yeah. Let's just call it what it is.
It's like you need more vitamin D, more vitamin IT.
I'm an IT retard is what it is. So long short was having some issues with my internet here. And me and Bob got on a Zoom meeting here. And actually I had Bob be Scott. With my internet provider, and boy, it was kind of fun, Bob. Yeah, when was that? When we started that? It was a series of days. I think we started on Wednesday, Thursday. I can't remember. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was Tuesday or Wednesday. Was the very first one, because then you had to order that modem.
Yeah,
right, and then it took a couple of days to get back around to installing it and all that.
Yes, and to give the Stiffies a little insight on why we even had this, this just what was called series of events with my internet providers. We're trying to beef up the quality of the show, and get some really good high speed upload and downloads here 2 ways. And mine was lagging, and I had some old equipment, so that's kind of where this all genesised from. But did you have a good time with that, Bob? Because it seemed like you were doing a little sparring with some of these tech support customer service folks.
Well, I don't like to get pissed on and told that it's raining, so.
Wait, why did we do that last weekend then? You said you wanted this. Great. Here comes the lawsuit.
Yeah, when we were talking to these people and they're just like, well, this internet can only handle this, and we only have this package. It's like, well, guy.
Listen, Paul.
Right. I know, Mr. Nayananajad. You're going
that was really good pronunciation, actually, Bob. That was really good.
You're going to have to go outside of your scripted answers to select, and actually probably use Google Translate to respond to me. But I don't know. Does Google translate to Hindu or from Hindu?
I don't know.
I don't know. But
I
either
know
way,
that some of them could be speaking Chinese too. They could be Japanese. They could be Philippine. What do they speak in the Philippines? Is it Filipino? I don't know.
I don't know, man. I guess.
Calico's going to be so pissed at me when he listens to this one.
Right. You can expect a comment on YouTube at some point about our ignorance. Read them out, boys. Yeah, and I also liked how they just like tried to just sneak in a television package with your internet, just real quick, like.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, by the way, you're in a 1-month trial, and this will just start up in 1 month, and your bill will increase dramatically, even though you didn't agree to a television package at all.
Yeah, you're like, wait, what? And that's when it really escalated a little bit. I like Bob was playing nice, and then when they started to force things down our throat that we weren't asking for, it got kind of funny. There was a couple of points in the conversations where I was like, Bob, please remember, you are me right now. Don't say anything too crazy.
Well, the good news is they can't spit on our food.
No, they can't do that. That's a huge plus over being an asshole to your hostess or your waitress, right?
But
So
I did get upset with one person, and I asked to speak to their supervisor, and they promptly ended the chat.
Yeah,
just like that. Just disconnected the chat. No, you can't speak to my supervisor, but what you can do is fuck right off, and I'll disconnect the chat. So I saved the transcript of that chat, and I think we're going to send it to Comcast corporate and complain, because that took like 45 minutes just to have them disconnect. And then a couple of days later, we want to talk to somebody. So I have Scott call in this time, and we're on hold for a good 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
it
then
was right on 20.
And then we finally get connected. And I'm assuming that they're all working from home with custom software at this point to take calls. But it was just like some private conversation. So it was on speaker, so we were both listening to it on the Zoom meeting. And then the conversation just kind of ended, but the phone never hung up. So it's just like someone went to go take a shit or something and just like set the phone down.
That's honestly what it sounded like too. There was a lot of like chatter, murmur back and forth, and all of a sudden a door that needed some WD-40, sounded like a heavy bathroom door, right? It slammed shut, and then there was dead silence. And that was interesting to me. It sounds like somebody like had their phone in their pocket or their headset like around their neck, and went and took a shit. And there we were.
They must not have been in New Mexico, because, with those green chili shits, it wouldn't have been quiet. Like, oh, ooh, I shouldn't have had so much green chili.
There's a bunch of, there's screaming, there's crying, there's sobbing, there's splattery sounds.
You wonder if like you can blow on it from where your vantage point is. You start.
Hey,
but you can never reach it.
Hey, honey, can you grab me that Charmin roll in the freezer?
Right. Yeah, good old New Mexico deuces. And sometimes they involve a pre-wipe.
Wait,
we've really devolved here.
Yeah,
we're
doing a good job. Yeah. What are you talking about? But no, that kind of reminds me of something, Bob. We had chatted about this, I think, like a couple weeks ago, and you were like deer in headlights when I brought it up, and I was like, "Hey, has your daughter, being, just a few years old, ever like, dropped a deuce in the bath?" Or excuse me, in the toilet, in the bathtub. Yeah, that's happened too, but that's another story. But they're so little, and their butts are so little that they're like, where they're pooping does like not go into the water of the toilet. It goes into the front end and kind of gets stuck there like cement. When I had joked about that like a couple of weeks ago before, you're like, no, but things have changed now, huh, Bob? You've seen the light?
Interesting thing. So my daughter came out all excited. I pooped. Okay. And I was like, okay, well, let's go back in there so we can wipe you, because that's gross. You're walking around with squishy poop butt. And so we go to
She's
do that.
Sitting on your lap. I pooped. And you're, that's awesome.
And then she points and says, like, it won't go down. And there it was. Almost a perfectly round turd stuck in the front of the bowl. So I grabbed my phone and I literally went to go take a picture to send it to you, just because we had talked about this like 4 days before. And I went to take a picture and it fell before I could get the picture. So I missed the moment. I missed the Kodak moment.
that's like trying to take a picture of a bald eagle flying by, and you go to do it, and you just fumble your camera too much, and you just, out of
Well,
sight.
I figured there'd be more opportunities. And I was
There's
right.
got to be more.
So, a couple of days ago, my wife comes out and she's like, there's a turd stuck in the toilet. And I was like, what do you mean stuck in the toilet? And so I go there, right, and I was like, oh, and it's like a man turd stuck in the front of the toilet. And I'm like, was that the toddler or the teenager? And, I need to get some distinguishing there. But no, it was the toddler. And I went and flushed it. And I was like, oh, it'll wash down. It did not.
Doesn't even fucking budge, dude. It's like it's got claws into the side of the inside of the toilet, and it's just hanging on. It's pretty impressive, man.
It was like a snail getting rained on. It didn't move at all. So that one needed a little bit extra nudge, but just know that when I see a turd like that, all I can do is think about you. So
hey, I gotta love it, man. Yeah, well, it's interesting too because I think when I talked about it a couple weeks ago, I was like, "Hey, Bob, you ever had that happen?" And then, like, if you get in there soon enough and you have to take a piss, it's almost like a game to me, almost like a shooting game. At the fair where you get the little water like gun or whatever, and you shoot it in the bullseye, and you basically just have to hold it in the same position for 30 seconds, and you win a prize.
Yeah.
This is the game for those hangers with me. So when they're stuck on there, I get in there real quick and I start pissing all of that stuff down to clean off the toilet. I'm actually doing chores while I'm having fun and doing target practice.
It's also like a prostate test as you age. Like, do I still have the PSI to wash this turd down?
And you know what? Seriously, I think about that sometimes, and boy, it's still functioning. It's still got some grip. So we're doing okay.
Well, good for you.
Oh my goodness. So Bob, I got to ask you, man. I just got to ask you right out of the gate here, and I don't mind, kind of airing this out for all the stiffies and everything, but been doing a little bit more AM drinking than usual. Not during the week, obviously. That's still not my game.
Yes, I would never do that.
For all you not watching YouTube right now, Bob just did something very funny, so watch the YouTube video. Well, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah,
shameless YouTube plug.
That's a common theme as I've approached that conversation and topic with just other people in general in these COVID quarantine times. Is 5 o'clock tends to be more like 11 o'clock. And it seems like every week that goes by, it's just a few minutes earlier that I hear of my friends, especially on social media, have already cracked a bottle open. So,
isn't it interesting too? Because I know some of these people that are my friends on Facebook are 2 hours ahead of me on the East Coast, right? And I'm like, oh well, he's having a cocktail, so it's like 10:30 our time, 12:30 their time. It's like, oh, it's fine. I'm just going to the bar. Yeah, it's interesting though because I've had a lot of fun, and I think you have too. I hope you had just making this not so much of a guilty feeling either too. Like obviously we can have AM cocktails, right? And that way we're still getting a nice full body of nutrients and vitamins too. Like, geez, if you actually use V8 and some spicy stuff in your Bloody Mary, you're good to go, man, right? Don't you want to be like revving on all cylinders, right? So
some vegetable juice.
Yeah. So that's perfectly acceptable in the AM, and just like a few shots of vodka in there, and then mimosa. I mean, that's very.
It makes a brunch time mimosas perfectly socially acceptable.
It's actually responsible right now because you're doing what you can to keep your immune system in cherry condition, right? More vitamin C, better
vitamin C. It's all about vitamin C. Mm-hmm. Also, there's another one that I sometimes make that I make an iced coffee. And then I'll pour vodka and Irish cream and then coffee liqueur.
Is it bad that I'm salivating right now?
And then I'll make that iced coffee just a big, large adult iced coffee. If you really want to spruce it up, top it with a whip, drizzle some chocolate on top, throw down. But then it's much more appropriate to have, a 10:30, 11 o'clock iced coffee. So there's a few ways that you can unguilt yourself for doing some not only day drinking but AM day drinking.
Yeah, and that way you're being festive. You're kind of playing into the time of day a little bit more, and you're still getting your nutrients. Now, I could not make that excuse um, yesterday. Or, like I had mentioned to you, we had a half day on Friday. So on a call with my team, I had a White Russian. It's not exactly an AM beverage, but I do hold the fact that it's still okay to have it any time of the day because Jeffrey Lebowski has it any time of the day, right? So that's okay. So kind of a little technicality there.
How Don Draper of you. Good for you.
Oh man, just it's so bad. It's so bad, and this is even before. I don't want to say before I was a heavy drinker or anything like that because that doesn't make sense. But
when was that, Scott? How far back are we taking this?
There was 28 days when I was in rehab. I was sober as a judge during those 28 days.
So, right before I was a heavy drinker, when puberty just happened.
Yeah, exactly. No, but there's something about that show which I think is so great. I mean, it's no surprise to me either that a lot of guys that were already our age or maybe a little bit younger in the 1950s and 1960s. I understand why a lot of them are dead right now already. I mean, you can't have these kind of lifestyles. But when they're in there, they're starting a morning meeting like 9:30 a.m. They start pouring each other some neat shots of scotch while they're going over some paperwork or whatever drama. You're like, wow, that is dedication, and that is craziness right there.
Now that's AM drinking.
That's
while they're crushing a half a pack of smokes before noon.
Yeah. Honestly, if I'm doing drinking before I've had anything to eat for the day, that's when I'm gonna feel a little bit more guilty about things. I'm like what we're talking about here, 2 quarantine weekend drinking. I've already accomplished a lot of stuff before that 11:30 mouth-watering sensation, right? I mean, I at least have got up and cleaned the cat box, washed the dishes, take the trash out, stuff like
fed
that.
The child,
yeah,
a couple of responsible things. Ate something.
Yeah, ate something, fed the kids.
And let's be honest, you've done just enough to justify that.
It's time for a drink,
right? You have to get that checklist done. You're like, all right, wait a minute. So, I've watered the plants. I made the Stiff Truth T-shirts in the garage. I've fed the children. I fed the children lunch. Yeah, so I fed them at 11 just so I could check that off the list so I could get right to drinking. But
exactly.
Yes, you do have to do just enough to justify that. I agree.
Yeah, no, you really do, man. And that's it's great though because what that's called is that's being a responsible, functioning alcoholic. And kudos to you, sir. It sounds like you've also graduated to that level with me, and we're comrades, which is nice.
Yes, I'm a highly functioning alcoholic, and only alcoholic by the actual medical standards. Did you know if you have more than 2 drinks a week, you're considered an alcoholic?
That's just preposterous, dude. I don't think, and I'm sure there's some stiffies out there that don't do a lot of drinking, which is totally cool. But by definition, if you literally think about it, dude, if you had like a beer on a Friday evening with coworkers, right, after a long week of work, 1 beer, and you went home, and then Sunday, like football was on, and you had 1 beer at halftime, and that's what you did for the week, you're considered an alcoholic?
Well, you got to be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, you have to. You should have put down that second beer for the week, you fucking loser.
Fucking alky. What the hell's going on?
Well, it's interesting, too, especially with the day drinking. You really got to pace yourself, man, right? You really got to pace yourself.
You can be napping by 2 o'clock. Easy.
Oh, easy. Like, I think yesterday I was ready to go to bed around like 5:30, 6:30, right after dinner. I was like, I'm done. You know what I mean? I had to kind of like wake myself up for round 2, not be such a piece of shit. But what I really, really love, Bob, is I'm just going to call it the prime time zone, right? It's not after your first drink. It's not even after your second drink for many people that maybe are, have a somewhat of a tolerance to alcohol. But I want to say in between like the second drink, maybe near the end of it, to the start of drink number 4 or 5.
Yeah, see, I think there's a sweet spot in between drink 3 and 5.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, and it seems to be where I know everything. I'm the best looking guy in the room. I'm very quick witted. I'm, very funny guy. And then all of a sudden, after about 5.5 or 6, things start to get a little sloppy, man. You're feeling this too, right?
Oh yeah, there's definitely that prime zone. So, like if you're at the bar, or whatever, and there's a group of women, and you want to approach that women, do it on like drink number 3. You'll have that level of confidence. You'll have that degaff, that don't give a fuck attitude. You know, that fear of rejection will kind of go away. You don't really care, which will then be received well by the opposite sex at that point. Or the same sex. I don't really discriminate how you stiffies do it, but it's like at that 3rd or 4th drink where you're really feeling it and you're in the zone. Now, if you make that move on drink number 7 in hour number 2, it ain't going to be received the same way.
No. Especially when you go up, you're hey, and you burp in her face and you don't even realize you're doing it, and you already got like a hiccup going. You're all, okay. First impressions, already off on a bad foot there. Then you just seem like this sloppy drunk guy, That's no good. But try going up there on drink 1 with, having drink 1 in your hand too. If you're not already a very confident guy, you're probably going to be like stuttering and fumbling over your words. And that's not very, very attractive to the opposite sex either, I would think.
Yeah, there's that prime time zone about 3 to 5 beers or 3 to 5 drinks in, and again, it's flexible depending on your time frame. If it's hour number 1, it's probably not going to work out. But if it's like hour number 2 and you're on 3 to 4 drinks, that's you're probably feeling it. You're right in that zone.
And Stiffies, a little quick public service announcement on this too. This is all relative to your size, your body weight, and how much you drink too. So if you're a 90-pound Asian girl, you probably shouldn't go for the 3, 4, 5 drink out of the gate to look for the sweet spot. Maybe you should go with 1 or 2 just to start off there. I don't want anybody to get in trouble, Bob.
Just curious as to why the Asian girl.
I don't know.
Couldn't it have been just a 90-pound woman in general?
I don't know why I threw that in there.
Okay.
Whatever. But I like how you focused on it. The verdict's out on you, buddy. I believe Bob either is a xenophobe or has a dislike for Asians. I'm not sure yet, but I'm still trying to put the pieces together. We're going to have to circle back on that one, I think.
I don't appreciate what you're insinuating.
Listen.
I love some teppin and sake and sushi and the I guess that's all Japanese, but still the Asian cultures in general. So I don't appreciate what you're insinuating.
I jest, Bob. I jest. But seriously, Bob, we talked about something last week, and I think we had a conversation about midweek too. There was some hiccups there, and that's about the new gun. What's going on? You got the new shotty yet?
Oh, so I went to go get it because I know a guy who is basically an arms dealer. I don't know. He's a certified gun salesperson.
Oh, hey, does he got that Charmin double roll too? I asked you about last week.
No.
Oh, fuck.
He didn't have it.
He's got to re-up.
So I go out there and we fill out all the paperwork, and it's like he lives an hour away from me. But a lot of the stores are closed right now, so it's a real pain in the ass to try to get a gun. So I go out there to get it or whatever, and we fill out the paperwork, and he calls the ATF and gives them all the information, and they're like, all right, well, this guy's in a hole.
Why?
Come again?
Excuse me? Baking powder?
All right. So, because there's a lot of Robert Wests in New Mexico, apparently, that are felons. That's
a common name?
I know. Who would have thought that Bob West was very common? But when I got a pistol a few years ago, I went and it had been like a week, and I went back and I'm like, hey man, where's my gun? Like I bought it last week and paid for it. Like where's it at? Yeah. And he's like, oh well, it's still like an investigation's going through. And I was like, what's taking so long? And he showed me. He's like, let me look your name up. And he's like, oh come here, check this out. So there's like 50 Robert West in New Mexico. And you see this? like 31 of them have felonies, and they got to make sure you're not one of those guys trying to pull a fast one.
That's an outrageous high percentage of people. That's, if I'm off the top of my head, that's over 60% of Robert West's in New Mexico are fucking criminals. That seems a little bit skewed.
What's up
What's
with
going
that?
on here, Bob?
How did I make it out of that group?
Hey, well, I'll tell you what, you beat the odds on that one, my friend. You did.
I definitely did. So, yeah, it took a long time. This time, it only took like 2 days. He hit me up, 2 days later. He's like, all right, you're out of jail. You've been released. We can meet up somewhere and get your gun. So, we met up in town and swapped guns really conspicuously in a Costco parking lot so that everyone can, like, stare at us and wonder what we were doing.
Sure. Were you masked up, too?
No, I didn't mask up for that one.
Wow, I bet people were really looking at you like, what the fuck is that guy? The tables have turned, right? Like 6 weeks ago, you were wearing a mask. You're fucking asshole. Now you're wearing a not where it's going to fucking consider.
Hold that thought, because none of that came through.
None of it came through? Interesting.
No. Okay. Anyway, try again.
No, I was saying. I don't know. So, what was the last thing? Costco got the. You weren't masked up.
I wasn't masked up.
Okay. Go ahead. Continue.
So sorry. A little bit of technical difficulties today with my internet. Thank you, Spark Light.
I like how you call them out.
So yeah, I got the gun and I went back and I went by Costco and got a couple of things, booze.
Sure, the essentials.
Because I buy my booze 3 weeks at a time, once a week.
Makes sense.
Every time I go to get booze, I make sure to get some so that I don't have to go out for a while, and so I buy like 3 weeks worth of booze, and then the next week I go buy more booze
because you need more for the 3 weeks after, right?
Yeah,
you're always thinking ahead.
Yes, that's exactly how it goes.
I gotcha. Well, fun stuff, man.
I did get it. It's an amazing gun.
Did you shoot it already?
It's Italian made, so it's probably why I need to go get tested now.
Oh wow, that was a stab at Italy.
a little low blow there.
Too soon? You're all, yeah, actually, kind of.
So thanks, Mario and Luigi, for coughing on my gun before it shipped. I appreciate that.
Jesus. Mario and Luigi, too.
Mamma mia! Have you shot the gun?
Jesus Christ. Well, on that note, my friend, I am pretty stoked about the Stiff Truth today and the Stiff Cocktail, the Stiff Drink.
Yeah, I don't know what's more exciting here. I'm really excited for both.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be classic. It's going to be new. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be different. I'm just going to pump this up, Bob. Help me out.
I like them. And I've never really had the chance to have them at home. It's always been a drink that I've ordered when I go out. And honestly, I order that drink almost any time I order a cocktail when I go out. So I'm really glad that I have all the shit to make it in the house now.
Rich and compelling stuff. Okay. So why don't we go ahead, get ourselves a cocktail, and talk about something else when we come back that's going to be pretty fun.
Let's do it. But remember, Utah. Give me 2.
That's right. I'll see you soon, bud.
Later. Hey. I'm back.
Yeah, we're back, baby. How we doing? How are the stairs? You are not even wheezing at all. There's no beads of sweat on the brow. You're getting in shape, sir.
No, I'm out of breath.
You're all, You're holding it for a minute.
I'm getting better.
Oh, my goodness.
No, they're okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been eating a little better this week, trying to get a handle on things. But so stiff drinks.
Yeah.
Let's hold up a glass. Right there. That's the money shot right there. So,
what do we got, Bob?
These are old fashions. Love them. Bottoms up. And they're so good.
It's a sip and drink right there too, my friend. A little bit of background too. I do like to read, mainly if there's pictures, as you know. But I did a little research on the old fashioned. Did you know, and I did not know this before a couple days ago, that the old fashioned is the oldest cocktail mixer in America. Came out in the 1880s, and it used to be called a whiskey cocktail. And then after a little bit of time went by, they called it a whiskey cocktail. They called it an old-fashioned whiskey cocktail, right? And then they just dropped the cocktail and whiskey part of it and went with old-fashioned.
Yeah, back in the day, it was basically just throw a shot of whiskey in a glass and a sugar cube and throw some seltzer water on it.
And maybe an orange if you wanted to. It didn't have the cherry in it, or didn't have and of course the sugar cube was in lieu of the simple syrup if you want to go that route. And the reason why they put tonic water in it too is because sugar doesn't dissolve in whiskey. So
it's terrible to use sugar.
Yes, that's why I went with the simple syrup.
Yeah, that's the way I did it too. So,
well, cheers, old boy.
I tried the sugar one first, and then I found out that's not going to work. So I went to the simple syrup. That's much better.
Oh, dude, and those cherries too. My daughter loves.
What a gorgeous drink that is. Right?
It really is. I mean, yours looks a little bit nicer than mine, but look, I got the slice of orange in there too. Got the cherry at the bottom. It's a good-looking drink.
See, I went
good-looking drink.
I went with lemons on this one.
Ooh,
instead of orange.
Mixing it up, you fucking sly old dog, you.
Now, all week long, I've been practicing these stiff drinks to make sure I get it right, because I'm a quality guy that puts in quality work to provide quality entertainment to our stiffies. No half-assing here.
I think we've mentioned this several times, and it's not BS, that this is very serious. We take this very seriously, and probably the biggest part of the show that we take seriously is making sure our stiff drinks are done right?
Yeah, I start making sure on Wednesday. Then I double-check on Thursday.
So literally, we come up with it on Tuesday, and then we start testing it and making sure that we have not only the look, the glass, the ingredients, and we have to kind of iron those out and make sure we have a nice fluid, formula for Saturday and Sunday, right?
well, every time I go out to dinner with the wife or like a manager dinner or anything, and we're having like a little bit more of a formal dinner, I always get a stiff drink of an old fashioned. With my dinner, whatever it is, I really like going out and getting them. So here, when you're at home, you just whatever's gonna take the edge off, whatever I got to do. You don't.
Whatever I got to do.
you don't think about like, oh, let's make myself an awesome cocktail so I can really enjoy it. It's just like I'm gonna take a shot, and then you gotta after you're done with that,
Yeah. No fun.
But the ability to make an old-fashioned at the house is really awesome. In fact, my wife isn't a whiskey drinker at all. But when I offered her a drink and she tasted it, she's like, that's actually really good. So, yes, this is why I drink them all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah, it's
not all the time. But
it's not because you're a drunk or anything like that. But no, it's honest to God truth. It actually was fun. I had to go get a couple of things for the bar. And as the stiffies know, I do have a full bar in my living room. But not fully stocked up with all the necessities that you need to actually run a bar. Like I didn't have bitters. I had to go get bitters. I didn't have simple syrup. I had to go get simple syrup. The only thing I did have, I think, was the whiskey which is the most important element too. But yeah, no, it's great because this is also forcing me not only to enjoy usually cocktails that we have out, but beef up the bar, right? And beef up my bar's resume. It's nice.
Yeah, and save those receipts, buddy.
Hey. Yeah, these are definitely creative stiff truth drinking sessions. So absolutely. Now,
And if you want to spruce it on up, sorry to interrupt, but if you want to spruce it up, maybe the lady stiffies out there that think this is a little bit much, there's a similar version that's a Manhattan that you can go for too. Try that out.
funny that you mentioned that, Jamie. Oh, and by the way, I do have a martini shaker. I knew I did. Remember, I told you this. Like, I think I lost
Shaken,
it or something.
not stirred.
But biggest difference between the two, besides minus an ingredient or so, is you shake a Manhattan, you stir an old fashioned.
And doesn't it
So
have like grenadine or something in there? Because aren't they red?
there's something a little bit different. They're literally almost the same drink though, dude. But yeah, Jamie had one yesterday when I was practicing for the show, which was one of my things I was doing in my day drinking. I think I'd already passed the prime time zone when I started my old fashions, though, if you know what I mean.
Like
So,
it. Love the honesty. Gotta stay. Gotta keep the candor up with the stiffies.
you really do. And guys, I think where I notice the prime time zone the most, and it's fleeting, is when I go bowling. That's always I love bowling. I've got my own bowling ball. I'm a regular Jeffrey Lebowski over here. I've made a couple references now. But when you start like lighting it up and throwing strikes like every single time, and then like the next game you have like a couple more beers in, you're at 3 or 4 then, and then you're literally throwing the ball and like the guy's laying next to you. That's when it that's when I'm like, hey, sorry about that, dude. I know you're like in a tournament and everything, and I threw my ball over there, but yeah, just slipped out. Yeah, it's probably the worst, man. But anyways, what I was gonna say is stiff truth, bro. The stiff truth. I'm salivating a little bit over this one just because, again, it's fun. It's going to be fun, and I think we're going to, if you're okay with me saying this, Bob, I think the stiff truths are just going to get more and more fun. And I'm really excited about this one, and I think we're just kind of showing that progression right now, Bob. But I'd like you to go ahead and take it away, Bob. Tell us what we're talking about today.
This week's stiff truth is what brand of water is the best?
I told you guys this is a spicy one.
Super fun, super fun. I'm all about Aquafina.
See, I'm a Fiji guy. Either way,
I'm about that.
a Dasani. Oh, you're a Coca-Cola man through and through, you fucking fuck stick.
So that was a quick stiff truth. Anyway. No, honestly, we're not going to talk about water, at least not in this show.
Well, we could say anybody that buys bottled water and pays a lot for it is stupid, and then we can move on.
Don't fuck with my smart water. It's smart. I bought it while wearing a Stiff Truth shirt. It made me smarter.
Okay, well, that I can buy because of the Stiff Truth t-shirt, but other than that, it's completely outlandish nonsense.
No, honestly, the this week's Stiff Truth, we wanted to talk about stand-up comedy.
Woo! Hell yeah, baby. Best stand-ups in the business, right? So definitely excited about that because just to kind of just get right into it, Bob, one thing I noticed when we were just originally brainstorming this is, man, there's a lot of great comics out there, but there's a lot of different types of comedians, right?
There's so many. This could have been like several different shows.
Then it might. We might have to take. It might be our first multiple part episode of the Stiff Truth. But I think just kind of highlighting a few things here. I mean, there's just so many different ways to do stand up, right? Let's just kind of highlight some of the things that we've seen out there. There's the one-liners, right? That's a unique brand of comedy. I think Rodney Dangerfield might be one of the foremost known people that's known for one-liners, right? You've got your prop comics like Carrot Top and Gallagher and folks like that. Completely different from somebody, say, like Joe Rogan, who honestly, when he does stand up, he just sounds really, really angry. So I'm not even sure what he classifies as. Then you have more of like your observational type. Well, every comedian's observational, but more of like the what would you really call like a Mitch Hedberg, Stephen Wright kind of comedy? Like I guess it's very punny, right? I don't know. How would you describe that?
Are you trying to be punny?
Wow, that was a dad joke, and I laughed. But you know what I mean. They do stuff that's kind of a play on words. A lot of it. There's literal references that are the funny parts about things that aren't literal references that are sayings and metaphors and stuff. So
really, with comedy, it's just like It just all depends. What one person thinks is amazing, another person might find total disdain for. Like take a Sarah Silverman, very polarizing with her content, and me and you will listen to her and laugh our ass off because we're dark and crass, and that's fine for us. But then you'll have a more traditional, comic appreciation person that'll find it and be like, this chick's stupid. Her content is stupid, and she's going way over the top all the time to try to get laughs. It's forced and whatever. So it's so unique, and comics have such a way to find that audience that gets it, that gets them, and that's what makes this really hard. Is because it's very tough to find. Overall, hands down, there's really like, is there a Michael Jordan of stand-up comedy? I don't know. There's some forefathers. Like there's some George Washingtons and Ben Franklins of comedy, right? But is there just like this guy that rises above the top? And I don't think there is because of that audience perspective and that who likes what.
I really like that analogy too, Bob, because basketball is one singular game, right? So when you kind of put it that way, is like, is there a Michael Jordan of comedy? It's like, well, what game are we playing? What variation of the game are we playing, right? Are we playing full court? Are we playing half court? Are we playing prison rules? What's going on here? Because all those are different types of comedy going along with that same analogy. So that's a good one. And I just kind of did a little research too. Surreal humor and deadpan delivery. This is Mitch Hedberg. His comedy typically featured short, sometimes one-liner jokes. So I guess you could kind of put him in that category, but also mixed with absurd elements, right? So, and that kind of says it a little bit there. But yeah, there's just so many different ones out there. So I guess if we want to break it up and make this not too much of just, I mean, us just bullshitting, is that what we do?
For 3 months now.
3 months actually as something that has like, I guess, a format around it. We've been bullshitting for over 20 years, but yeah. But I guess if we want to break it down, let's start here. Okay. Since we just talked about some of the founders, right? Oh, are you okay, Bob?
Oh, my glass is broken. This one's defective. Oh, look, this one works.
Oh, Bobby came lined up with a double round of old fashions.
I'm not playing around here, and I knew that I would run out. And
you know what it is, Bob? You know what it is? Last week, when I had two Irish car bombs prepared, Irish slammers.
Thank you. We've already dissed on the Italians. We've already dissed on the Asian community. Can we not also dish on the Irish? But I think it's too late.
Yeah, it's probably too late. It's an Irish slammer. And I didn't diss on the Asians. I just said there's a 90-year-old or 90-pound Asian girl that probably can't handle a lot of booze. It's not a big deal. I mean, I'm not saying that's truth or anything. I'm just saying there's 90-pound Asian girls out there, okay?
Even though the graphic that'll pop up in post-production is just going to be like, truth all over your face. I won't do that to you. I'm doing it.
Such a prick, this guy. I swear to Christ. I don't even know why I talk to you anymore. Oh, yeah. But let's get into
it. Demand it.
They do.
We're not even friends. No. We just talk during the show. It's very forced any other time.
And honestly, this is why we have to drink in the show, because we can't stand each other that much that we have to take off the edge before we get into a conversation. But enough about us, guys. Back about what we were talking about. I'm going to start with some Godfathers, right? I think anybody that's
can we mix in a godmother?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Okay, and I want to keep this very PC over here, but I want to.
There's a couple two godmothers I'd like to mention.
Good. I'm going to start off here. What I'm going to say is the godfather of modern stand-up, okay? And what I mean by that is the first one to be obscene, use profanity, vulgar, being arrested numerous times.
I was going to say, get arrested over it.
Yes, got arrested 3 times, or got charged 3 times, got found guilty twice. But that's going to be Lenny Bruce right there. I mean, this is the guy that kind of gave everybody the open door to be able to do the style of comedy that pretty much we're going to talk about for the rest of the show. I mean, everybody else.
He took the living room material to the stage.
Yeah, he took some Bob Hope shit to something that is, dialed in and just way more real and raw, right?
To some extent, we owe Lenny Bruce a nod for how we speak on our public platform.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't have the balls to go to places that make people cringe a little bit, be a little bit dirty, go a little bit below the belt, get our minds in the gutter. That was like Lenny Bruce's wheelhouse. He started that, right? He basically, in my opinion, was the first stand-up comedian that got out there and was real. You know what I mean? Was real and talked how people talk. He would curse. He would talk about things. So got to give it to him. I think a lot of people respect him for not only his legacy and kind of starting that, but the other thing that's very interesting about Lenny Bruce to me too is very, very like a lot of comics, man. I think including ourselves that are just have a comedic bone in us. Not always actually the happiest people. You know what I mean?
It takes a little bit of fucked up to be funny.
It sure does. It takes some kind of, and I've heard other comedians, like real comedians here that are like making a lot of money doing it, talk about something is always a little bit off with comedians, right? They've either had a bad childhood, they were very reserved and got made fun of when they were kids, or had a really depressing kind of upbringing that was a personal. Something is crazy, right? But long story short, Lenny Bruce also was, that comedian too that went ahead and overdosed on morphine in 1966 and snuffed his life out very early. So you have that too, which is unfortunate.
And if you want a little bit more of Lenny Bruce, look at The Marvelous Miss Mabel on Amazon Prime. That's her mentor and the person that really like gets her out there. But anyway, the guy that plays the character, very complicated character, he does a really good job. So that was the first time I'd even been introduced to Lenny Bruce until we started talking about that. And I was like, oh yeah, that all tied together at that point.
It's so funny that you mentioned that too, man, because I actually almost thought I was like talking to my wife. I was like, when we were watching that, I was like, is this based on a true story? That's Lenny Bruce. That's a real dude. This is legit. I was like, he's like the it guy in comedy in the, the 50s and 60s. You know what I mean? So yeah, got to give it to Lenny, but also to, I'm just going to give it to Lenny as a godfather of comedy. I don't think anybody else, because I'm thinking other people that I want to mention right now are much younger than him by at least a decade or so. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone because I think he was born in the 20s. But who were you going to mention as some female godfathers?
So
godmothers.
We got Joan Collins.
Well, hold on a second. Something's wrong with my drink too. It's broken.
Oh man, what are you going to do?
I got it.
Oh, good for you.
I got it.
Way to be prepared.
I feel like we're on the Food Network. You know how they already have the mixing bowls ready with all the stuff already ready to go. You're all
some actual chef has already made the actual version for you.
Yeah. Some prep cook has like done all the slicing and all the dicing and all the measuring and put it in a nice bowl for you. You just dump it in on the show. That's what we're doing with our cocktails. Anyways, go ahead.
You're like, so after you make it like this, then you stick it in the oven, but then they have one that like an actual chef made that they pull out of the oven. It looks nothing like what they just made.
So you put that in there for 30, 45 minutes, and you have this beautiful fucking thing. You're like, hey, that's not what mine looks like.
Right. Why is my cake sideways?
I was like, well, it didn't say in the recipe to drink a bottle of bourbon while you were cooking, Bob. So,
Well, and shame on them.
Yeah,
that's a key element of cooking. So, Joan Collins, a pioneer, especially for women, much like Lenny Bruce. She's kind of that version of women stand-up. She took it to places that no one would ever have thought women would go to. And she started off in the 60s, I believe, maybe late 50s.
Sure.
But very, very crass, unapologetic, speaking her mind. And then you can also take it to Carol Burnett.
Interesting.
So
very nice.
A couple of oldies but goldies there. But as far as for women stand-up go, like really groundbreaking pioneers, right?
I'm going to add one person to that list. And that's Joan Rivers.
Oh, that's what I meant. I said Joan Collins, huh? The fucking Dynasty chick? Joan Rivers.
That's okay. I figured that's where you were, but I was like, I'm going to add one more person that's... but yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, she... God, dude, I want to say, God, she was the only stand-up that was doing a really racy kind of raunchy shit in like the 70s and 60s and stuff like that, and then proceeded to do it until her death.
Yeah.
Like, when did she die? She died. Let me see. Let me look her up.
She's like,
2014.
I was gonna say like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah. No,
She had that like botched plastic surgery or something. Right?
Oh Jesus, her daughter has the same thing going on. It's not good news, man. But anyways,
just get old, guys. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay, yeah, no. So Joan Rivers, right?
Joan Collins. That's funny.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I'm gonna be surprised because even I didn't catch it. I was just subliminally thinking he's got to mention Joan Rivers, and then you said Joan somebody. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not even gonna think about who that is right now.
Well, good catch. I had that, two whiskeys ago, but I lost it.
I'm not gonna hold you to it, buddy. It's okay. You're in a safe place right now, so have your drink, breathe deeply. And
it's the COVID.
Back.
Allegedly.
He's like, God damn it.
Goddamn COVID makes me not remember names.
All right, then. Okay, so we got the dynamos of the originators, right? I think we covered that right out of the gate here. Then I'm gonna go one level up. Okay, and then we're not gonna really take it further here, but then we start branching off here, right? We kind of define the modern comic and where that came from. I'm just going to say hands down for me, out of the next generation of comics is going to be George Carlin for me, 100%. Now, I had an argument with somebody about this, and they did say that, for them, it's definitely not George Carlin. It was, who did I just talk about? Rodney Dangerfield, right? About the same era, right? But again, when I heard this man's argument out, I was like, okay. And that's when I started thinking, we're talking about two different styles of comedy right now. You know what I mean? Like, we're both making fantastic points. Like, it's like George Carlin, one of the most intellectual comics, would have like his jokes thought through like 100%, like 20 steps back. So when he would say something and then rationalize it, you couldn't even argue with him. I was like, that was amazing. It was beautiful. The guy did it so well. But then you go to somebody like Rodney Dangerfield. Dude, I saw him on Johnny Carson, I think, do over 100 one-liners in just his interview with Johnny Carson for a few minutes. It was fucking impressive, and had Johnny Carson like rolling on the ground. It's like, he was great. And there's something about the, hey, I get no respect. It's like great guy, dude, and had a good character. But with me, at kind of that era of comics, it was kind of, I guess, Joan Rivers is about the same age, maybe a little bit older than George Carlin, but I think Carlin was it's going to be number one for me.
Well, I think some of that's because you're a dark guy.
Yeah.
As far as your humor goes, and I think that's why you and I both gravitate more towards Carlin. However, Rodney Dangerfield was funny as shit. Yeah. I also would throw in, I hate to say it, but Bill Cosby had some stand-up chops.
Sorry, I knew he was going to come into the scene.
He did.
It's so weird how raping people and drugging them totally taints your career. You know what I mean? Is that fair?
But while he was raping people in that era, he was actually a really good stand-up comic.
And he was the clean comic, too. He was like the godfather of the clean comic.
Isn't that weird, right? Never cursed, never talked about anything crass, and was still pretty funny. So I'd have to throw that guy in, just because in the late 70s and early 80s, Bill Cosby was the shit. Also,
I agree.
Staying on the black comics, that was not clean at all. Richard Pryor, man, that guy changed some shit. Comedy took a whole different step into what we're allowed to talk about when Richard Pryor came out, and in fact, that directly then brought in Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy's Delirious, right? Andrew Dice Clay. Right then around that time, again, because that fear of, look at how far Richard Pryor took it, and he is wildly successful, then all these younger comics coming up at the time could also then dig down to the depths of their brains and nastiness and have success as well.
I got to say, right at that time, too, coming up in the early 80s, you had Jerry Seinfeld starting his stuff. You had Sam Kinison in the mid-80s, right? But again, one of like, seriously, his stuff beyond his little catchphrase, little yell and everything, good shit, but very raunchy, very, very raunchy. Yeah. Andrew Dice Clay was stuff I wasn't even allowed to listen to when I was a little kid. My dad's like, no. But I thought his character was phenomenal. Hickory dickory dock. It's just like getting down.
Almost very similar to Dangerfield.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Gotta love it. And that's the other person I wanted to mention. I kind of had him, and and I kind of take back this line of thought, I think too. But I was holding back a little bit on Richard Pryor because I do want to highlight that just as good as George Carlin, I think. But it's a different, again, a little bit different style of humor. And then let's just face it, he did carve the way for all African American comedians to be able to just be on the same level or even higher than their counterparts, right? And he was the first one that kind of like, he just paved the way, man. You know what I mean? So
dropping N-bombs.
Oh, dude,
no swear word was outside of his reach
because you could.
Yeah.
You know, he could because he was black.
He's the original DeGaff, right? He did not give a fuck about anything when he went on stage, and it was refreshing to watch, and it really did pave the way. And it the things that happened in the 80s with comedy really paved the way, not just for comedy, but for free speech in general, right? The things that they talked about broke the rules so much that it really tested free speech and what people could talk about and get away with. And then obviously you couldn't do it on regular TV, but that's why none of these guys did. It was always what? HBO comedy specials. Always.
Yeah. No, and I was actually, I was going down a rabbit hole the other day just looking at old comedies stuff, right? And I was actually watching some Lenny Bruce. And the next thing on deck was Jerry Seinfeld's premiere on HBO, 1981. You know what I mean?
Very clean comic, but hilarious.
Well, and here's the other thing about Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, say what you will about his masses of wealth in his show and marrying chicks that are 40 years younger than him. Gotta love the guy. But
role model to us all.
No, babe, it's cool. No, it's cool that we're the same age. But anyways. Well, I'm going to get in trouble after this show. But no, the other thing that was really, really crazy that, honestly, I was thinking about this show. I was like, Scott, when have you fucking laughed the hardest at comedy specials, right? And, of course, first thing that popped in my mind is all of George Carlin's, right? I mean, I've had those back, his stuff since the 70s and 80s. I've watched when HBO first started doing that shit in the early 80s. And then my mom and my dad even had the old George Carlin records back from the 70s and shit that we used to listen to, me and my brother as kids. But beyond that, dude, shit, I lost what I was saying.
That's okay. So most of the comics that we've all talked about have these amazing longevity careers that have spanned decades, literally.
Where was I just going with that, though?
I don't know. I'm on this side of your head. I'm not actually there. So, but there are also comics that have. Oh, go ahead.
Can I interrupt? Because I finally remembered what I was thinking about. Sorry, the old fashions are doing a good job right now.
They're wonderful.
But yeah. No, but what I was saying is the Jerry Seinfeld, right? Because I was saying I had watched all these stuff. Blah 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 blah. I went off track there. I apologize, Stiffies. That was a bunch of rambling nonsense. But one of the funniest things when I did think about, like, what have you laughed at the hardest watching something? Jerry Seinfeld's I'm Telling You for the Last Time, which he did right after the Seinfeld season finale, right? When that thing closed up and people were going through like fucking Seinfeld
peak popularity.
Yeah, going through Seinfeld withdrawals, he decided, you know what? Let me go ahead and do all my shit on an HBO special saying, basically, this is it, guys, right? This is it. I fucking laughed harder at that and was like falling out of my fucking seat laughing more than even some of the, the Carlin shit that I used to watch. And that was his final, not his final moment, but it was his moment where he had everything where he could push the envelope a little bit more. He was a little bit more racy. He cussed more. He was a little bit more vulgar, a little bit more obscene, right? But with Seinfeld, it didn't go that far. But it's almost like what I think he wanted to do back in the 80s, but he was just a little bit more reserved and trying to get his television show and this and that. But goddamn, one of the best specials. If any of the Stiffies get out there, look it up. I'm telling you for the last time, Jerry Seinfeld's stand-up HBO special. It's fucking hilarious, and it's every classic Seinfeld joke in one show. Anyways, I'm done plugging Seinfeld. What were you saying?
Well, Seinfeld is a Goliath. And again, with the longevity, right? A couple of decades of being at the top of his game. George Carlin, several decades. Richard Pryor, a couple of decades at the top of his game. But there's also just been really good comics that have come and gone and had really good specials and performances, but didn't didn't extend their careers for whatever reason. I don't know. The very first one that comes to mind is Dane Cook. Had great specials. Had like 2 or 3 great specials, and then just disappeared.
You know, it's so you're spot on there, dude. Because when he came out, I'm going to mention this guy twice in this show, but Calico, our buddy, we both were listening to Dane Cook in mid 2000s, right?
Obviously, Calico, you need to like reach out or something.
yeah. Apparently, subconsciously, I haven't talked to you in a while, but no, I remember this because he actually introduced me to Dane Cook. He's like, dude, you gotta listen to this guy, Scotty. He reminds me of you a lot. You know what I mean? The way he talks, his like animated shit, you know, and stuff like that. I'm like, let's check out this guy. Obviously, a lot funnier than I am, so whatever. But yeah, he was fucking dynamite from like about 2006, 2005, I want to say, to about 2008, 2009. He was selling out Madison Square Garden and doing a great
That was like
job.
his best show, right? Was MSG.
Yeah. And then he just he did some movies. He did some movies with some really hot chicks too, you know, and did like some big blockbuster movies. He was in one with Jessica Alba. I can't remember the name of it. He was in a couple
the one where they worked
ones.
at like Costco or whatever, right?
No, that's the one with Jessica Simpson.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Again, just two.
My life is full of Jessicas. Love you, Jessica.
Yeah. But you know, again, two like sex symbols from that era, right? You know, like, yeah, he's just kind of doing. He's fucking making the rounds. He's doing the fucking superstar thing. And now, where the fuck is that guy? I have no idea.
He made a lot of money and disappeared or something. I don't know.
I think I heard, now that we're talking about it, I think he went off the rails on something and lost a lot of credibility, but I don't remember the details. So maybe
like
the Stibbies can look that up.
Bad or something.
Yeah, you know, he started yelling the N-word, you know, like fucking, what's his name from
Kramer.
Seinfeld? Yeah, Kramer, yeah.
Michael Richards.
Michael Richards, yeah.
Yeah, that's one. And believe it or not, Stiffies, back in the day, Ellen DeGeneres was a really funny comic.
All right, Bob's going solo on this one.
but and then her career took a different path, and she talk show host and all that shit now. But for a while in the '80s, Ellen DeGeneres was like one of the top, if not the top, women stand-up comics for a while there. I remember her on the Tonight Show. Right when Jay Leno took over, she was huge then, and so there was that. But then gone, and not like Dane Cook. She didn't disappear. She became, a mogul of different things, but Dane Cook just kind of disappeared. There's some up and coming comics. One that I've been pretty impressed with was Eliza Schlesinger. Have you heard that? Have you seen her? Very funny. She's got like 2 or 3 Netflix specials on Netflix right now, but very funny.
It's interesting. I might know her. I just don't know the name off the top, and I'm not going to bullshit you or the Stiffies. I don't know the name.
Well, we know you won't. You're a no-nonsense kind of a guy.
Just like not wearing pants.
But it is interesting to see the people that have come and gone. Even to that extent, fucking Carrot Top, you mentioned him earlier with the prop comics. He was like an elite prop comic and then just disappeared.
Well, he disappeared and went to the gym and started like pumping crazy steroids. Have you seen this fucking guy recently? He's like
yes.
He's like he looks like Hulk Hogan's body on like his retarded face. So it's tough. It's really weird. It's like, whoa, dude, what's going on there? So like, again, with him, just like totally going off the rails here a little bit. What happened with this guy? I think he had that comic complex. He had something going on, was very depressed. And then I think a lot of people laughed at Carrot Top even when he was very successful. I think he was always kind of a laughing stock for some reason, which I don't get.
You guys can all laugh at me if you want to make me a millionaire.
yeah, same with me. Go ahead. All the shitty fucking comments, we love them if the dollars come in. But at the same time, I don't know what caused this dude to like go be like Arnold Schwarzenegger like after he was done doing comedy for a little bit. Then he came back and revived himself, but he looked totally different and weird.
Well, he's not as funny when he can kick your ass.
No,
it's not. So I really do. I think that people lost the laughing at him so much because the people in the front row are like, I'm not going to laugh at this guy. This guy might lose his shit and tear my head off my shoulders.
That's true. If we're talking about the best prop comics, I'm just going to go ahead and say it's not Carrot Top anyways. It's going to be my boy Gallagher.
No, for sure.
I mean, especially in our generation, you remember this dude. It was 80s, early 90s. There was nothing better than the
Remember him?
Sledge-O-Matic.
He went to like Athletic Casino last year.
well, I'm saying in his heyday because there's also something that the Stiffies can look up. Gallagher 2 is his brother, that's his like twin brother that almost looks just like him, that actually stole his act, and there was a big lawsuit over that. So that's why he has to call himself Gallagher.
So
2.
family reunions are like incredible at the Gallagher
they're
house.
fun. They're really fun, and they both have Sledge-O-Matics, so that's really cool. But that whole scene, having people in the first couple of rows have to wear like fucking like drape themselves with like plastic or whatever to cover up from like watermelon and cottage cheese and all these fucking things they would smash up there. Plus, he had a really good bit on the English language. I don't know if you remember that, where he was like like making sense of the English language, like COM, comb, okay, HOM. Like talking about home, comb, like jumping around from word to word, and like how they didn't make any sense, and even though they sounded the same or were spelt the same. Do you remember that little bit he did?
No, it's been too long.
It's a good bit. You should check it out.
And I will. I don't know why I had to go creepy there, but I did.
Bob, you're always creepy. Let's move on. But no, seriously, and I know people want to hear it, so I just got to say it right now. If we're talking about, okay, so who's your favorite stand-up comedy guy? Who's your favorite stand-up comic? I'll say
right now,
or I would say that's unfortunately left before their time. I know a lot of people love Mitch Hedberg. I love Mitch Hedberg too. Okay, he's a phenomenal comic. Was snuffed out in 2005. Another guy from opioids, right? But at the same time, probably the best at what he did. Very close second, though, for what he did was Stephen Wright. Have you seen Stephen Wright do his stuff?
No.
You'd know him. He's the guy that plays the guy on the couch in Half Baked.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do know him.
Yeah. He's an amazing comedian. He does the same, almost the same exact kind of jokes that Mitch Hedberg would do. Just those very weird one-liner off the cuff, like that doesn't make sense, but it kind of does. So those guys are great at that. And then I want to say right now, if we're talking right now, currently I'm going with Bill Burr all the way, 100%.
And I was thinking about that while you were talking because I don't listen to you often.
Yeah, I understand.
And I was thinking because Bill Burr's right there, and then I'm just like, well, is there anyone else that challenges him for me? And like currently, as far as like sitting on top of the throne, I think that he does sit on top of the throne. I mean, if you asked me like 10 years ago, you would have had other like C.K. Lewis was still like not an asshole at that point.
Oh, he didn't age well.
Right. There was other people that were like up there at that point, but now 2020, I gotta say the comedic world is Bill Burr's oyster, right? I mean, you
really
got Burt Kreischer coming up, and he's fantastic. But I do, and they do have a podcast together.
Yeah, the Bill Burr Show. The Bill Burr Show. It's great.
Which is fantastic for me. It's one of my favorite new ones to watch. Which, by the way, they launched the same week we did.
Well, great minds think alike. So not to toot our own horn, but yeah, we're fucking there.
You're welcome, guys, for boosting the ratings for you.
Yeah. We just got them another 10,000 subscribers.
Or at least another 10.
Let's be realistic, all right?
8. So, I would have to say Bill Burr is probably my favorite, but there are some other ones that are, in the top 5 that are currently going. But if we're just going to do that, then yeah, I would say he's probably the king of comedy right now.
Right now. And it's... he's got a very interesting blend of being that angry guy, and then he's dialed that down. I mean... Just again, not to plug Bill Burr too much here, but his other podcast, the one that kind of he was one of the first podcasts too with the Monday Morning Podcast. But that's literally just Bill Burr getting on the computer and starting to record on the microphone and just talking for like 1.5 hours, right? And it's fucking hilarious. And there's no guidance, there's no format. It's just that man's mind works with such great comedic development as he thinks. It's fun. It's fun, dude. I will say this too. We haven't talked about him too much here, and I think there's a reason why. I love Dave Chappelle. I think he's great. I honestly don't think his stand-up is as elite as a lot of people put him at. Sure, his 20-year hiatus or whatever he did kind of built people up, like Tantric Sex for wanting his 2 specials that he put out. He's fucking super funny. But to me, it's a little bit stuck on the black guy does this, white guy does this, everybody laugh. You know what I mean? So, and I hate to say that. I think I might get beat up for saying that. But
why you going to a Carrot Top show?
Hey, no, bro, no, I'm not.
I'm not either. I might go, but I'm sitting in the back.
I'm gonna heckle him from like the bathroom.
No, so I didn't include Dave Chappelle for a couple of reasons. But the biggest thing was that I was only looking at true stand-up comedies, true stand-up comedians. I wasn't looking at skit performers and actors. Otherwise, I would have put Jim Carrey in there.
Sure.
Right.
And both of them did stand up, right? Jim Carrey does some stand up too,
right?
But
Absolutely.
It's not as notable.
But comedic actors is a whole different show.
Yeah. Well, and again, I only say Dave Chappelle because he did those 2 recent specials after being fucking dormant forever. He
which
had a
are
great sketch comedy show, which again is a little bit separated from stand up. I did stand up before that, but I wanted to make that clear that where he's at in the stand-up world to me is he doesn't quite get up there with like my Eddie Murphys and my Pryors in that game. He's just.
But if he came to Albuquerque, I would absolutely go.
Oh, hands down.
Or post quarantine, if he goes to Denver, that's a reason to make a trip.
Well, dude, totally. And probably Dave Chappelle, out of all active comics that are alive right now, is probably the guy besides Bill Burr. I'd want to have a whiskey with him or a scotch with him, but I'd like to smoke a fucking big fat joint with Dave Chappelle and laugh my fucking ass off.
2 years ago, I went and saw Jim Brewer.
Oh, I love it. Speaking of half bake, huh? That's where that came from.
Yes,
there we go. There we go. I see the mind turning.
Yeah, my sister actually bought me and Jess a couple of tickets for my birthday, and we all went together and caught Jim Brewer at a local casino. Shit was funny. Jim Brewer. Obviously didn't make this list, but if he comes to your town, catch the show. It's fucking funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I don't know. Half Baked kind of got my mind going.
It's a great movie, man. It's a great movie. I saw it.
Look, guys, I do things. I saw Jim Brewer.
He does things. Well, and I just got to run through a couple others real quick, just so we don't get lost on a couple of really good stand-ups here. But somebody that did make the transition to an actor, like you just said, but was great in stand-up is fucking Robin Williams. Williams.
Man, I can't even believe we didn't catch that guy on the list. Yes.
Oh, he's still here. We didn't hang up yet. We're good.
Robin Williams is a fantastic stand-up comedian. All of his impersonations and voices.
Dude,
another one.
down.
If we're going to talk about those impersonations and voices, let's not throw out Dana Carvey stand-up.
Yeah, seriously,
another great one.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember both Carvey he does some great stand up too. But specifically going back to Robin Williams, man, there was a couple of shows, very famous shows that he did in the '80s where he was totally coked out of his mind too, and just was going a mile a minute, which is his fucking wheelhouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was so goddamn funny, and was like, dude, he's like doing voice character. You're like just like boom bam, perfect voices. Any kind of dialect doesn't even matter. Any kind of imaginary fucking dialect, he like nailed everything. Hence why Will Smith will never be the genie to me. I'm sorry, okay? It's Robin Williams. That movie was a fucking piece of shit.
No, come on. Somebody had to be the genie.
I know, but you can't follow up his mastery, right? Because he did the same thing in movies too. He was just that guy that was always on.
Yeah, so
and that could turn it on.
A little bit of standing up for Will Smith is Robin Williams had the luxury of not having to appear on camera to do that. Straight voices with animation made it really, really easy. So I think a lot more of the criticism has to do with, live TV. Plus, Robin Williams is dead.
Yeah, well, and Will Smith, regardless of how much you want to stand up for him, he's no Robin Williams. So let's move on.
And honestly, nobody is.
Yeah, that's right. Another person I got to talk about that we didn't talk about, another one that was snuffed out that I think was one of the greatest comics is Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks is another great comic, man. Again, very good in the late 80s, 90s, got snuffed out by a disease, didn't overdose from drugs or anything. But if you remember, and this might be a little bit more for maybe some stiffies out there, but Bill Hicks is the one that sampled in the Tool album and the Tool song where, do you remember that? Where he's like, I think that drugs have done a lot of good things for people. Yeah. That's Bill. That's a Bill Hicks like signature sketch right there, our signature bit. And he was always really good with. I almost want to call him like a psychedelic warrior kind of comedian, right? To a certain extent, because he was very much of an out of body kind of guy too at the same time. But yeah, just a couple people I wanted to make sure to mention. That's all.
There is a whole like group of guys we left off.
Well, yeah, we could keep going. We could go. I mean, we could say Chris Rock. We say Louis C.K. We could say Ricky Gervais. We could say all these people, right? We could say Anthony Jeselnik, who's actually really fucking funny. Daniel Tosh is a pretty fucking good fucking stand-up comedian too. I mean, yeah, we can go on and on and on. But you see the point of maybe having some more conversation and dialogue about maybe some other parts of this. But for this conversation, Bob, give me your
Richard Pryor.
Number one.
He's my favorite, man.
Good.
He always has been. As I was growing up, when I first saw him, when I was like 10 years old, I was like blown the fuck away. Right? That someone is up on stage saying that shit. Right? So Richard Pryor's always been my favorite.
Good for you. I like it.
I'm not alone.
No, you're not alone. There's, in fact, my older brother's same way. Even though we both grew up listening to Carlin, I'm going to go Carlin. If I'm going to have to pick my comic, I'm going to go with him. There's just too many things he did to me to where I couldn't live without it, or my life would be different with how I looked at comedy. But I guess
I love how our fucking comedians are like dark, looking at the worst part of society. Nice.
Yeah. it's the state of the world, my friend. But yes, no, absolutely, man. And then if we're going to I'm just going to throw up a little random subtopic here, but the shittiest comic ever, if you ask me, Jeff Foxworthy. I'm just going to throw it out there.
And it's funny because that was the group that we're mentioning. We didn't mention all the redneck humor.
The blue collar comedy tour. Sorry, guys.
Yes, the Larry the Cable Guy, Jeff Foxworthy, all those guys. Which, they can make you laugh, but in the end, it's unoriginal. It's one-liners. It's once you hear it, there's no like watching it again and laughing the second time. So that's kind of why I didn't include those guys. Even though I'm not gonna say that Jeff Foxworthy hasn't gotten a chuckle out of me.
No, and he made a shitload of money in the early 90s with that fucking you might be a redneck bullshit, right? But, okay, blue comedy thing, I will highlight one thing. There's one guy out of all of them. Larry the Cable Guy's a fucking fraud. He doesn't even have a fucking accent. He's not even a redneck dude. That guy's the worst, if you ask me. But Ron White, who's always got to go out to Scotland.
Ron White, he's our kind of a guy. Yeah. Always has a whiskey in his hand.
I will take Ron White out of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour and say, dude, you don't need these fucking losers. Do your own tour. You're fucking hilarious, dude. Do your own tour. So that's just my thing.
Yeah, Ron White came a couple years ago here.
Yeah, too. I don't think he ever should have been involved with that nonsense.
Anyway, I think it's fair that we mentioned that group, guys.
Just one more name up. Don Rickles. Everybody else shut up, okay? Everybody else I didn't mention Don Rickles. Fucking shut up.
Good plug.
Yeah. Well, he's honestly one of the best insult comics. Like, I would never want to be in the front row at a Don Rickles show. He's like, look at this fucking guy right here, and he'd make you be crying by the end of the show.
Right, and he was one of the key things for the key players in the original roast. It was Don Rickles.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, roasts are absolutely our bag.
Oh my God, they're the best, dude. The Comedy Central series of roasts have been phenomenal. We can talk about it.
We are running out of time though, so I think everyone has our take on our comedians, and it's an endless topic, and we could spend forever talking about comedians. I do want to update and give some love to ZV. ZV cracked the top 10 briefly yesterday for the Albuquerque market. Woo! So if you guys want a little bit more of ZV, please visit ZV on Reverb Nation. You can find his profile there.
Hell yeah.
It's still in its infancy, but give him love. You can also purchase his music on Google Play Music. It's really cheap right now. It's like $5 an album. I lowered the price to start it off, so now it's a deal, but it will be going up soon. So please get ZV's album now. And support.
Hey, honestly, guys,
Stiff Truth artists or Stiff
artists.
Yeah,
if you don't get it, you're a fool. Honestly, it's great music, bro. It's great music. You need to get out there. You need to get the ZV album. And look, if you just want a little taste, go on Spotify, right? Go on Spotify and check it out, guys. Go to YouTube, whatever. I mean, it's all there. But he needs some support. He needs some love, and he's fucking kicking ass.
Hey, and I'll tell you this, streaming produces revenue too. But for real, buy his album. I bought it.
I did too.
So
I might have got a free copy.
buy it anyway. I bought it anyway. Other than that, we did announce our Patreon page that we have lost our Patreon, and I did want to give a special thanks out there to Shelly Jankowski.
Yeah, Shelly
She has reached up and become our first Raging Stiffy. So not only is she our first patron, but she did reach up and become like the highest level of patron. So it's
awesome.
It's an effort like that that really helps us keep improving this show. And keep making purchases and hardware and software and getting a better product out there for you stiffies, because we care about giving you guys the best possible show that we can actually produce for you.
And Bob,
yeah,
remember, we do care, and that's because it's all about the kids.
It's always about the kids.
You know that, fool.
So 100% goes to helping the kids.
Yeah, I mean, don't look at the trace on that, but yeah, we're telling you it goes to the kids for sure.
Well, we're producing a show, and if the kids watch, we're the anti role model. So if you guys do exactly the opposite of what we say and do, your kids will be fantastic.
Yes. No, thank you, Shelly. That's awesome. We got our first Raging Stiffy, and you know what? Honestly, you know it, man. And I want to just highlight this again and make sure everybody knows this is how we're going to continue to give you guys banging content and keep improving. So, guys, get in there, see what you can do. Even a little bit is awesome, guys. Every little bit counts. And beyond that, Bob, I mean, I think we're about wrapped up here, man. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
I don't really that of much, content, I guess. But what I do want to say is that I want you all to remember to like and subscribe. You guys are really falling short in the subs, so you need to step up your game.
Yeah,
we step up our game every week, so I would appreciate the reciprocal game stepping up from you stiffies.
Yeah. So when Bob's waiting for the reach around, guys, get in there, like, subscribe, share.
Spit on your hand and give it, damn it.
Get in there, guys. Ring the damn bell, guys. But hey, other than guys, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks so much again for joining us, guys. We love you. Have a safe, have a relaxing week. Mask up if you're going outside, and we'll talk to you guys next time, okay?
See ya.